Today, we are going to go over some of the essential knowledge every raider has to have in his back pocket to have a more successful time topside. We are mainly focusing on the PvP side of things, but naturally, some of this is going to spill over to the PvE side as well. If you watch my beginner's guide to Arc Raiders, you will notice one or two of these tips will overlap with this video, but some of this stuff just has to be mentioned in this specific video as well. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend you do if you wish to have a much easier start to your Arc Raiders journey. And let's get the most obvious tip out of the way. Whether you like it or not, arcs are a big part of your PvP engagements, so it's important to understand how they operate, how to take care of them, and when it's best to avoid them. Most of you already know, but arcs have 3 modes. Blue, patrolling. They haven't seen anyone and they're just doing their thing. Yellow, investigating. They are actively looking for a player or noise made by a player. That noise could be a shot or an extraction that has been activated. Either way, yellow light is always caused by a player. Red means aggression. They know exactly where you are and they're doing everything they can to kill you, or the raider that they're after. Use that knowledge to your advantage. If you see an arc looking or already fighting a player, make sure you don't get too close. You do not want to pull that aggro to yourself. Instead, let the arc investigate as long as they need, because most of the times when they get too close, raiders will open fire on them, pulling in more arcs, and then inevitably they will end up taking some damage, and that's your chance to swoop in for a free kill. Just make sure you're ready to get into cover right after, otherwise you're gonna have to deal with the remaining arc yourself. When playing in squads, don't die for a downed teammate. Best way to help your squad is to stay alive and deal with the threat. If they are downed and you are in a bit of a standoff, don't try and revive your teammate immediately, unless you're certain that you're in a safe spot or that you're covered by the third guy in your squad. So, if your teammate is about to kick the bucket because he's been down for a while, I understand wanting to rush enemies to quickly kill them and revive your teammate, but 9 times out of 10, you're putting yourself in a very unfavorable position and both of you end up dying. It's especially true in this game because of the third person. We've all done it, and there is no shame in playing for yourself in that situation. And if your teammate has a problem with you letting them die, when reviving means both of you have a very high chance of dying, then you just have a shitty teammate. Same rule can be applied for when you want to finish the player that you have downed. Do not put yourself in harm's way just to shoot a downed player once or twice. We have learned from the server slam that knocked players essentially turn into bullet sponges. Only go for a finish when you're certain there is nobody close enough to third party you, and you can go and smack them in the back of the head. Also, there's a good chance that the enemy squad is not watching this video, and they will risk dying to revive their teammates, so use that down player for bait. But one more time, do not waste bullets on a downed player. It's not worth it. When engaging in PvP, you will very often pull the attention of the surrounding arc, so it is very important to understand how to take care of them. Always shoot the arc in the rotors. Wasps, which are regular drones, have practically no armor. Hornets have 2 of their front rotors armored, but the 2 at the back are without armor. So if possible, go for those instead. Otherwise, use heavy ammo if possible. If you are in the vicinity of a leaper, either run or ideally seek shelter in a building since they cannot enter one. You do not want to engage in PvP when you got that thing jumping around. If you have to fight it, shoot it in its core where the light is. Once you get rid of its armor, it does fall pretty fast. If you cannot penetrate the armor, shooting its joints to break the legs will at the very least limit its mobility, but it comes at a huge cost of ammunition. Rocketeers have proven to be a raider's worst enemy. It's heavily armored and hard to fight around, as your whole squad can get blasted by its rockets. But once you get a clear line of sight of its belly as it's about to shoot at you, aim at the spot where the red laser is coming from. That is its weak spot. Also, as a side note, if you can get your hands on some of the higher tier grenades, they can be extremely helpful against higher tier arcs. Wolfpack, for example, made eliminating both leapers and rocketeers much easier. Remember, there's nothing wrong with running away. Sounds really simple, but I have seen so many players who refuse to dip when they're in a terrible position and potentially even low health. Unfortunately, I am guilty of that myself. If you have a chance, maybe heal once or recharge his shield and then just dip. This does not mean you're giving up on a fight. You are just regrouping and giving yourself a better chance to come out victorious. Quite often when players see you running, they will chase after you, and since we're playing a third-person game, you will have the upper hand in that situation. Wait for them to be sprinting. Since he cannot immediately return fire, they have to stop first. first, swing out, and take him out. Sounds simple, but many raiders have met their maker just like that. Also, don't forget to put your gun away. This allows you to run faster and reduce the speed of which your stamina goes down. Also, you might want to consider rebinding some important keys. For example, I put my shoulder swap on one of the side buttons on my mouse, along with the quick wheel. Might not be for everyone, but I find it much more comfortable having those keybinds on my mouse, so maybe give it a try for a few raids, as you might like it as well. This allowed me to bind unarmed to X, which is the default keybind for shoulder swap. Makes it more comfortable all around, for me personally at least. I don't want to tell you what to do in your skill tree, that is for everyone to decide for themselves, as everyone has their own playstyle, but I highly recommend you invest some points into the mobility tree, specifically into Marathon Runner, which reduces the stamina cost of running around, and also Youthful Lungs, which increases your maximum stamina. Those two will come in handy when you're going for a flank, or if you get into a bad fight and you just need to leave as fast as you can. Obviously, having as much stamina as possible is important in those situations. Also, I think it's safe to say most players are going to go for those two anyway, so if you don't have them, it will be very easy to catch up with you or just outflank you, which could potentially end your raid. Not to mention, it will come in handy when you need to run from the arcs as well. Got knocked out by a tick. One of the most common mistakes in PvP I've seen is people shield before they heal. Shields are not extra health. Shields only act as damage mitigation, meaning they reduce incoming damage. If you have 1 health and your shield is at 100, you will still get one shot by the weakest gun in the game. There is no exceptions to that rule. So once again, bandage first and then recharge your shield. Fighting from a high ground gives you a massive advantage over those below you. You have the ability to keep your eye on the enemy in those situations, and you can act accordingly. As soon as they turn their back or decide to run, you can peek out and take care of them. But it's not as safe as you think. In the case of both of you holding each other's push, the one holding from below will be able to shoot first, because your head will be out of cover before your gun in order to return fire. So use your high ground advantage wisely. Wait for them to basically do anything but hold your push. That is your chance to strike. But before we move on from this, remember to use your utility as well. If you have grenades or anything of the sort, throwing 3-pointers from higher ground will yield much better results than throwing them from the bottom, praying for a hit up top. And if you do happen to be in a standoff with the guy below you, one grenade of any sort will make him think twice, and he's almost always forced to move. Once again, we're gonna pull out one more obvious tip, and that is do not loot your kills instantly. Heal and shield first, and then go for the body. Only excuse to instantly loot is if you're either out of heals, shields, or ammunition. In that case, your hand is forced and you have to go for it. But try not to get distracted by all of the shiny loot. Same rule applies. Get your health and shields up before going for the rest of it. And if you know for a fact that there is an enemy close by, sometimes you just have to leave the loot and make sure you survive the raid. So, no shame in running. But remember the most important rule that applies across every single extraction shooter out there: there is always one more. Last but not least, don't be cheap. Unless you're dead broke, you can never justify bringing just 1 stack of ammo or just 1 or 2 bandages and a single shield recharge. Build your loadout with the intention of surviving, meaning if you have a medium shield you can equip it. Bring at least 2 stacks of ammo. I usually double carry into my raid. I always bring 1 stack of heavy ammo for my Pharaoh and 2 stacks of light ammo for my secondary. Same with heals. 2 or 3 basic bandages are just not going to cut it. You need to bring 5 minimum. Same with shield recharges. It is highly unlikely you can get by with just 1 of them. I know you can kill arcs and use their power cells to shield up, and apparently you can also use regular cloth to heal up as well, but this is not ideal. You never know what kind of fight you're going to end up in, so always come prepared, and honestly, always bring more than you need, because there's a good chance that even that will not be enough in some cases. Thank you for watching, my friends. Hopefully these tips will help you click heads more successfully topside. If you wouldn't mind, liking and subscribing goes a long way in helping this video and my channel in general. If you have any other tips to share with the rest of the community, we would all appreciate it if you left it in the comments. Thank you again for watching, and take care.